Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Blue Collar Real Estate. I'm Greg Mayo.
And I am Ryan Herget. Greg, it's been a good minute since we've sat down and recorded a podcast, and today we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about some smart homes today. I'm excited about that one, man.
Dude, I tell you what, the smart home thing is taking off like crazy.
Just a little bit, right?
Just a little bit. And I don't know if you're aware, 100% in a recent consumer poll.
100%.
100%. Everybody polled.
So that's 5 out of the 5 people polled said, what?
It was actually a 500 and some odd sampling. I mean, we're talking about a lot of people. 100% agreed that their realtor should be an expert or knowledgeable about smart home technology.
Define knowledgeable, because I would put my knowledge level on a scale of 1 to 10 of smart technology somewhere around a 4. So should I be fired as a realtor?
No, you should turn it up to 11.
I should just learn some stuff. So that's what this episode's about. You're going to get me all learned up. English class right there. I passed in 8th grade. So you're going to learn us all up real nice on smart technology and what it is, what it means, and what are smart components that people can put in their homes, right?
Exactly right. So the first thing I want to talk about is the idea that smart home technology is not a new idea. It's been around since the 60s.
So walk me through that one. Since the 60s, like you put all the notes together for this show. You spent a ton of time researching it. So what was smart about homes in the 60s? Like, tell me about this.
Back in the 60s, it was like the wild, wild west of home technology, right? You had guys and gals who had rudimentary computers and had the skills to do it, and they would start automating things around their home.
So give me an example of like something, like one of the very first automations, not to put you on the spot or anything right now, but like give me an example of what were maybe 1 or 2 things that somebody in the 60s would have automated in their house besides the 14-foot satellite antennas that people would try to, steal cable from or something.
Right. The big C-band dishes.
Right.
One of the first things was, you know how through the 80s and 90s, if you wanted to set a timer for your lights when you were gone,
sure, you
could buy this little thing, you plugged it in and had a dial on it, and you set it what time you wanted it to go off.
Yeah.
All right, that was something some guy in the late 60s, I forget his name, but came up with in his own home.
So made it look like he's home when he's not home, and I love that.
Very
That's
simple.
Cool.
There was a story about another guy who took the dial pad off a phone and made basically a key-coded lock for his front door.
Man, I wish I was that smart.
And this was like 68, 69, right?
Man, you think of the ingenuity in somebody that like literally thinks that up. Like being around engineers is so crazy sometimes because you just like they'll sit there and look at something and like you can see the wheels spinning in somebody's head. Like I've got a couple friends like this, and like all of a sudden 5 minutes later they'll come out with this like brilliant idea that I would have like, how in the hell did you think of that?
Right.
Where'd that come from? And it's so awesome. So I think that's what's so neat about this smart technology is, it really lends itself to a lot of really cool components in a home, some of which, again, my opinion is some of this is not necessary at all. Like if you can't get up and like open your own blinds, well, sometimes we all need a few more steps in our day. But again, when you can hit a button and things magically happen, there's also a coolness factor to that too. So like let's dissect some of this a little bit and talk about what are these smart components, maybe some of the advantages, the disadvantages to them, and just simply things that people could be aware of.
All right, so let's start all from the same spot, right? Mm-hmm. We need to define what a smart home is.
All right.
And so there's a standard for that, like anything in the world, right? We have to have a standard. So a smart home, first thing, you have to have reliable internet.
That's helpful.
And then you have to have at least 3 of 8 categories of smart devices, which we'll get into here in just a second. So have to have reliable internet. And of the 3 categories of devices, you got to have 3 of them. We'll take each one of them kind of slowly and talk about it a little bit. First one's lighting.
Okay, so lighting could be many different things. We talked about this last week on the show where we talked about ways to save energy.
Right.
We talked about green energy, and there's all these different types of light bulbs. And if you want to, get back up to speed on that, go back and listen to the previous week's episode where we really dissect 3 different types of light bulbs and how much money it saves you, et cetera. But let's talk about that. So you just mentioned the dude who, back in the 60s invented this thing that stopped the electricity, and, you now had a timered light. So what's the lighting component to a smart home actually look like?
Well, there are smart light bulbs. Mm-hmm. But the main thing is smart switches.
Okay.
So every house or every switch that you currently have in your house now, you could replace with a smart switch.
Which does what? So
that smart switch, among other things, what it allows you to do is control that light switch from an app on your phone.
That's pretty awesome.
So let's say you and the wife get out to dinner, and you think, dang it, I did not turn off, the 9 can lights in the kitchen.
Right.
You open up your phone, turn it off.
or in our house, like the lights in every bedroom, every hallway, and every bathroom that get left
Right.
on as well.
It's that Trey Second song.
Right.
Every light in the house is on.
Oh, that is our house.
The other thing you can do from the app on your phone is just like that guy with the click, click, click wheel timer, you can set your lights on a timer.
Right.
Let's say you're pulling up to your house alone and it's dark.
Yeah, right. So from a safety standpoint, I could see that being a huge benefit to somebody that maybe has some concerns, or maybe they're getting home and they have a detached garage, or they have to walk worse yet, they don't have a garage to walk to. So it's just that safety component of walking into your home, things being on, ready to go without the worry that something else may be going on there.
And the energy savings too.
Yeah.
All right, so I've turned you on one.
All right, so we just talked about lights. The next thing I want to dive into on this is the safety component, because this is the big one. And I know myself, I don't always remember to lock my doors because I forget a few things from time to time. So having, again, safety where you can lock your doors, you've got sensors, you've got all these different safety components that can be automatically, again, controlled by your phone, right?
Right.
So that's cool. So dive into that for us. Like, what's that look like from a safety element? Because that covers like cameras, locks. Tell us about that one.
So I got a great story about this first before we dive into it. One of my friends, Brett, is that engineer guy you're talking about.
Sweet. Okay.
He's ridiculously smart, and he's always tinkering on making something, right? So this is 7 or 8 years ago. Him and the family are in Florida, and he had asked me to go into his home and every day and feed the dogs, and at the time the rats. They had 2 pet rats. Still creepy, Brett. Anyway, so I'm in there, and I fed the dogs and the rats, and then I washed my hands, and I was kind of looking around for something to dry my hands on. My phone goes off, which is laying on the counter, and I look on it. It's a text from Brett that says, "To your left."
Dude, that's weird. That's weird.
So I looked to my left. I got the paper towels. I wiped them off. I texted him back. I'm like, what's going on right now? He's like, I'm watching on the camera. He had real-time live internal cameras that he had installed. And now he's got them all rigged up to all kinds of different stuff. And
you know what my favorite part of what you just said is when I'm helping somebody sell their home, specifically a seller, and they've got the cameras in the house, and they're like, they were really I'm getting blown up as they're in the house. They're texting me, and then they're calling me like, you really should call them right now because they said this, and this, and this. I'm like, dude.
Oh.
Like, A, that's freaky. Secondly, no, I'm not going to call them right now. I'll give it like 5 minutes. But that happens all the time now.
Yeah.
It is like every single house I sell, there is some degree of like spying going on. It's crazy.
And you understand, as a listing agent, you have to now disclose that there is people watching and listening when that the technology's in the house.
Checkbox right there.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, but so the cameras are one thing, and the microphones, obviously, and there's a great safety element to that.
No doubt.
Obviously, Brett, sitting in his in-laws' pool in Florida, knew that I was walking around looking for a paper towel in his kitchen up in Indiana. So the cameras, the exterior lighting and how that's controlled from like a floodlight type of standpoint. There's sensors, not only the ones we're used to where it's 2-part and the door opens or the window opens and it goes off, but there are motion sensors.
Yeah, there's motion, there's glass break sensors. There's so many different safety elements that exist with smart technology now. And again, the beauty of this is it's right from your phone. The reason why, and I've got to be a little bit honest with everybody on this, Greg, I'm like a 4 out of 10 on my knowledge of this because quite frankly, a lot of it, I'm paranoid about it because of what you just said. The fact that somebody's listening to you as you're walking through their house, you're trying to do them a service or a favor, in that case, and it's like it's just a little freaky to me, and I'm not a fan of that. I'm a relatively private individual, and I don't like to share everything that I do in the world with everybody, and so there's an element to that really bothers me, which kind of leads us to this next thing, which is in the entertainment realm, everybody has these Alexas, everybody has things where you can just literally yell at something, just yell into the air at your house, and your lights come on. Hell, somebody's going to bring you groceries later on, or what technology has allowed all of this to do is so amazing, but at the same point in time, I think it's equally as scary.
The Alexa thing.
Hey Alexa, turn the lights off.
See, that's just what I'm talking about.
That's
right
incredibly
there.
creepy, Jason. Thank you for that.
Producer Jason literally just turned our lights off in our studio. So if you are on YouTube right now and you're watching Blue Collar Real Estate, you can only see our screen right now.
I couldn't resist.
Because producer Jason just turned our lights off.
Sorry. Alexa, turn the lights on.
And there we go. We have lights again. So there you go. It works just like what you just saw on YouTube right now.
And there's nothing like paying money to install a wiretap in your home. No, the media and tech companies have proven themselves to be unbiased and not interested in controlling humanity. So I think we're fine with that. Here's the thing.
For those of you who are listening on iTunes or Stitcher right now, you missed the sarcasm in Greg's smile as he just said that right there.
I think it came across to my voice just fine.
All right, so let's keep diving into, the entertainment side of this, because certainly there's benefits. You can literally just yell, open my blinds, turn off the lights, whatever you want to do, that works. But again, what's the flip side of that? What concerns lie with that?
Sloth would be the number one. No, but for me, when I think about it, aside from the conspiratorial avenue, right, which I don't think's far off, but by the same token, I'm not wearing a foil hat either. But one of the biggest concerns for me is that you can give it the wrong command. I'm sorry, it can interpret the wrong command.
Oh, so so give me an example of that.
It was an anecdotal story, right? Somebody was explaining to me, and right when they had first got one of these things, that they were talking about something about a gallon of milk. Well, their Alexa talked to their smart fridge, which we'll talk about smart appliances in a minute, and ordered milk. Well, I don't know how many times they said milk in this conversation, but they got a notice from Kroger or Meijer, whoever it was, that it was time to pick up their order. They both looked at each other like, what order? So they go down there, and it was 8 gallons of milk.
Oh. Well, there you go.
Kind of a lot.
You can never use too much milk, I guess. I mean, it doesn't go old or anything. Yeah, see, and, again, when I said that I'm a 4, I don't know how that works. I know that technology exists, but again, quite frankly, it scares me, and I also enjoy going out and about and seeing people and going to the store from time to time too. I mean, I'm a relatively social person. I'm a private person, but I'd like to get out and go do things. I hate sitting at home all the time, and having my milk delivered is just not that's just not a life I want to live. Personally, I can certainly respect that, and I can certainly see applications for that when people can't get out, as we've kind of navigated through COVID. That's certainly a huge need, for that in the world. But ultimately, that stuff just simply scares me a little bit. So yeah, I'm not going to be putting Alexa in my house anytime soon.
No, neither am I. In fact, somebody gave me one. It was the Echo Dot. I think that's the Google version. It's still in a box.
Right. You could probably sell that for a few bucks on eBay.
Yeah, I'm really not going to use it, though. But
now, the appliances. I'm excited about the appliances, though, because I saw this refrigerator the other day. I was in a brand new home model, and I saw this refrigerator that was a smart refrigerator, and it also had this little Keurig hookup to it with a TV above it. It was so cool. I mean, I didn't want to spend the $6,000 that it cost, but it was really, really awesome. So what exists from the standpoint of smart appliances? Tell us about that. That's the next thing that we wanted to dive into.
Well, the smart fridge, which we've talked about a couple times, it will order food for you when you're out.
That's kind of cool. I can't decide if that's cool or not.
I'm a little stuck on it, but they have smart washing machines.
And what's that do?
It will start and run automatically based on the level of, I don't know, funk in your clothes. Smart dryers.
Does it have like a Jetsons robot that picks your clothes out of the hamper and puts them in there?
No, but that would be Boss, because the Jetsons robot was way cooler than the one in Rocky 4.
Rocky 4, I do remember that one.
Polly's robot was creepy.
Polly's birthday robot. That was so. I wasn't so creepy. I was kind of a fan of Polly's robot.
The way she came out was like, "Hi, Polly." A little awkward.
And then did that little song and dance there.
Yeah, but we're not going to talk about
Rocky
the modern versions of those kind of robots now. But so, in a smart dryer, this, again, you'll use it to save energy because it will shut off when the clothes are dry.
Right, versus running for 60 minutes like I always set mine for.
Same.
It's like 2 things or 4 things in there. Or
now, one of the smart appliances that I think is Boss, and I think it'd be great to have because it would really jack with our dog, is one of those Roomba vacuum cleaners.
See, my wife bought one of these, I don't know, a handful of months ago. And I personally, we have a moderately nice vacuum that seems to work just fine every time I still use it, but apparently we needed one of these moving vacuums because it's more energy than it takes to walk around and just push the one we already have. So I struggle with this one a little bit. So walk me through this, because this vacuum that moves itself, we had some pets and just normal living in a house, and this thing didn't do the job that I thought it was going to do, especially that we paid for it to do, because it doesn't clean up as much as you think. It's like round. That's what we're talking about, right?
Right.
Yeah, I vote no to this purchase.
My name's Ryan Herget, and I don't approve
And
of this
I do
message.
not approve the Roomba vacuum, especially, anyway.
I've seen mixed reviews on them, but the idea is that there's sensors,
Yeah.
and when it knows when it's getting close to furniture or the wall or your shoe or whatever. But it will go around and it will remember where it was. So it may not do the entire house at once, but it'll get to it all, eventually.
Maybe sometime next year.
I don't have one. I want one because the concept is just cool to me.
It's one of those ideas that, and again, maybe I'm just being biased because to me it's like not that big of a deal to like actually vacuum your own house, but nevertheless it's technology that exists. I'm not a big fan of this one yet, but you can have mine.
Awesome. So let's move on to heating and cooling. Different from thermostats. We'll get to that later.
Yep.
But smart heating and cooling. This
I see immense benefit in because this is something that's using almost a huge chunk of the electricity that you're using in your house every month, right? Okay, it's something that is controlling all of the air that you breathe. It's something that can then tell you, is your furnace filter dirty? You and I, were looking at a condo last week and it had probably the dirtiest furnace filter. I don't think it had been changed for 2 years. It was insane. So this is a piece of smart technology that I can fully get behind and support. So tell us about what heating and cooling smart technology looks like, Greg.
Well, speaking of furnace filters, like the one we saw that had a sweater laying on top of it, basically.
Literally a sweater. I mean, this thing, we should find this picture and put it up in the episode. It was the worst I've ever seen.
Yeah,
and this comes up on every inspection as a bad furnace filter, but
Yep.
this one was literally like a blanket of wool.
But you won't have that.
Right.
Because, number one, your furnace will tell you when the airflow becomes restricted to a point, it'll tell you on the app on your phone, you need to change your filter. The other thing is the smart circuit board in the heating and cooling unit itself, not the circuit board in the thermostat. Again, that's a separate thing. But you combine that with smart vents, and what you have is the ability to zone the house almost down to the minutia.
Yeah.
Where you can dial in the heat and the cool. You know how it is. Some rooms are warmer than others by 8 or 10 degrees, maybe.
No doubt. And I think that's where, smart technology absolutely can come, into play. It can absolutely save money, because how many people have a 2-story home? I mean, hell, just a normal 2,500 square foot 2-story home, that has, doesn't have dual zone heating and cooling. I mean, this is something that can dramatically benefit, especially with the vents as well, because it's telling the system what the temperature is at each of these units, so it can direct how much air is moving. So it's definitely a huge, huge component that I think could be a huge value to a lot of people.
And it, even at my house, I live in a 2,000 square foot ranch. Once I come out of the bedroom in the morning, I go back in throughout the day, in and out, to grab something, grab whatever, but I don't go stay in the bedroom. If I had a smart HVAC system, I could make my bedroom 10 degrees warmer. I just turn off the cooling for that room for most of the day. Same with my son, who works 12-hour shifts, and I could shut off it. And you don't think it adds up to much, but it totally does.
It does. And, that's the thing, you and I talk about this all the time, but the compound effect of small little things over an extended period of time always adds up to a huge sum, right?
Yep.
And, if that furnace is running an extra 15 minutes a day even, well, what's 15 times 5? I'm bad at math, but that's, 75?
Mm-hmm.
So that's an extra 75 minutes a week that your furnace is running that it doesn't need to be running because it's heating a room that doesn't, that nobody's even in. Well, then compound that over the course of a year, let alone 5 years, 7 years, the average time that somebody's in a house.
Yeah.
And you've just literally worn your furnace out with times that you're not even in the house. And then not to mention, you've got a woolly furnace filter that hasn't been changed in 2 years. That leads to bad quickly. And that's why I think so many times we see people, I mean, how many times have you had an inspection, Greg, where the system's 2 years old and they're saying that, yeah, you need to have the furnace cleaned and serviced because nobody's ever looked at it before.
Right.
I mean, it happens all the time. And that's where I think, again, not to harp on this too much, but I think that, the furnace, the, heating and cooling system, adopting smart technology here is a very quick and easy way to save a lot of money. So,
absolutely agree. And we're getting ready to replace our heat pump probably later this year. Mike, if you're listening, put me on the schedule. We're thinking about going this route just for the simple fact of what you said. And we'll probably be in our house quite a while.
Yeah, no. So, and that's something that's going to pay for itself over over a period of time, without a doubt. So let's kind of move from inside the house to outside the house, Greg. From the standpoint of smart technology, what exists? Because I know now we're moving into your realm of outside. Tell us about it.
Again, we've got lights. We've got motion sensors. We've got the ability to control from an app on your phone all the things going on the outside of your house with that kind of stuff, door locks, the lights. But
the one that you've got down here that I want to talk about is the mower.
It's a Roomba, but a mower.
Oh, man.
Oh, dude.
I
And
hope
they
it
make
works
one
better
now.
than the Roomba.
They make one now that picks up dog poo.
What?
Yeah. I think it's called a Poopba.
You know what's going to happen? Have you ever seen the movie WALL-E?
Yeah.
So, like when they're on the spaceship and like everybody's like 900 pounds and can't even walk anymore, like fast forward like 50 years, I feel like that's the direction we're moving in. When like we can't even mow our own grass or vacuum our own homes anymore.
Yeah, right?
Like when it's a big deal to get like 5,000 steps in a day. I mean, literally, like a little more movement I feel could help people, not hurt people here.
Sure. And I totally agree.
I'll get off my high horse now.
But yeah, I'll leave you up there. It's fine. But to me, all this technology, so I go back and forth, right? All this tech we've been talking about, to me, is neat.
Super cool.
It's just interesting.
Super cool. I agree.
And I love the minds that went in to put it together and all that kind of stuff. The idea of a robotic mower, that's cool.
It's
Do I want
ultra
one?
cool.
No, I don't want one.
No.
I got a little under a half-acre yard. It takes me about an hour and 15 minutes to mow it with my push mower, and I like it.
Yeah. And for me, I hate it. My dad made me mow every single, we had, almost a dozen acres when I was growing up between a couple different properties. So, it was all the time mowing every weekend from April to October, it felt like. So I never want to mow again in my life. So I pay Victor to mow for me, and he does a phenomenal job, and I'm happy to pay him, but I just cannot wrap my head around the idea of a robot mower.
Yeah, I don't know how well it'll work.
Maybe I'm old. Maybe this is like you and I, like me just getting old. This is like me on a podcast right now, just sounding like that old, crabby old guy right now. But man, I just cannot support that idea. Like, especially, never mind, I'll digress.
So if you saw a robot mower, you would tell it to get off your lawn.
Yes.
Clint Eastwood just turned 90.
Dude, that's insane.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Eastwood fan.
Because he'd probably still whoop my butt.
Not probably, would. He'd just look at you and like do one of those like...
like, I'm sorry. I like to see him and Chuck Norris go at it. Anyway.
So you talked about thermostats and how that's different from as we move on and away from Chuck Norris and Clint Eastwood, who are both badasses, by the way. But moving from, we talked about the heating and cooling system and smart technology behind that, but you mentioned a couple times that the thermostat was separate. So for those that don't always like watch stuff about heating and cooling or not, maybe not as familiar with that world, what's the difference between the thermostat smart system versus the heating and cooling system being smart?
Great question. I just stepped on my cord and my head went like that. All right. He can cut that out later, or maybe he won't. So great question. With a thermostat, number one, a smart HVAC system is kind of expensive.
Mm-hmm. So we didn't talk about that. So back the truck up a little bit here. So how much more can somebody expect to spend for a smart system versus maybe just a 95% efficient newer system?
You could spend 22% more.
Okay.
On the unit itself. And when you're talking about something that could be 8 or 10 grand, you add another 20. That's not cheap.
A couple grand, yeah.
Let's say, just for an example, you had a new HVAC system put in your house 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. And you're listening to this episode and you're thinking, well, I want to do something that'll help save on my energy bill. I care about the planet.
Yeah.
Quit burning fossil fuels, all that. Well, you don't need to go get a new HVAC system. Maybe you can't afford the extra 20% bump. I don't know, but my point is, for $200 or $300, you can go get a Nest or some other. They're not sponsors of the show, or some other smart, thermostat. It won't give you as much ability to control as a system because the circuit board, again, like we talked about, in the actual unit is what controls it. But it will give you the opportunity for controlling when the heat's on or when the air conditioning's on. It'll start learning your behaviors. You can control it from work if you want, which when my kids were younger, I would love to have been able to just check it and go, oh, they turned it up 10 degrees. Let me turn it down.
Right. No, and we've got one of these. I just bought one for the house that I just bought, and we did put a new system in as well. And this is a nice component because truly you can program it based on the times that you're in the house, what you want it to do. You want it to turn down at night. I mean, for myself, I like it to be a little bit cooler at night. I love this thing because it truly is a nice piece of technology. As you mentioned, they're a couple $100 versus several $1,000.
Right.
And again, you can make the system work the way you want it to work. Turn it off when you're not at the home, or just let it run at a reduced temperature. So that way the system's not running full tilt all of the time. So again, for a couple $100, this is something that can dramatically help extend the life of your HVAC system, provided you change the filter from time to time, and is just simply going to make the house more comfortable. And again, you can pick your phone up and make it all happen right from there, which is cool.
And you can also generate reports. How much energy am I saving?
That's actually
where can I do better? I think it's fantastic. When we talk about all this smart technology, the idea, excuse me, is certainly to make people's lives easier, right? I always think of the Jetsons. We're kind of close to that without the flying cars. I mean, with all the automated stuff. But it's also to save money over the long haul on your energy bill and maintaining. And it's also to save energy. And we talked about this with the last episode on electricity and water before that. If we can save our natural resources by using some of this technology, that might be a good thing.
Yeah, and if just a handful of people adopt a couple smart pieces of technology in their home, that's all it really takes. Not everybody needs to go through the laundry list of items that we just talked and do everything. If everybody just picks a couple small things to retrofit the current house, or if you're considering building a new house, integrate some of these items into that house, it's going to make a huge impactful difference down the road anyway. So I think it's speaking of, there it is. There is Wally. So if you're watching the screen right now, this is what I'm talking about. This is my fear for humanity as we're watching this right now. So if you're not on YouTube, I encourage you to go over there, because this is an epic moment of what I think humanity might be moving towards. So,
Jason's on fire today.
I know, he's like killing it today, like he always does. So go ahead, Greg. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
Well, no, so let's ask the question: why don't people go smart?
Well, I think there's a couple things, but go ahead.
Well, there's 5 C's.
There's 5 C's.
Not to be confused with the 4 Ds.
Oh.
Which are dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge.
Oh.
What, Jason? We don't have a clip from Dodgeball? I don't.
That's funny. So let's talk about those real quick as we kind of wrap this episode up. So what are the 5 C's?
Well, the first thing's cost. A smart light switch, like we began talking about, they're about $40.
Versus if you get a regular light switch, you're going to spend what, $15?
A regular toggle switch, like a regular that we're used to, about $1, maybe $3.
About $1. Oh, all right. So you're spending a little bit more on the light switch, but then again, it gives you the ability to control that right from your phone, whereas the other one, of course, does not.
Right.
So
the only way you can control the other one from your phone is if you throw your phone at it.
Right. Which I would love to see somebody try that. Like, I'd bet 100 times throwing your phone, it's not going to turn that switch off.
No, probably
most
not.
people. It'd be fun watching though, especially with a beer.
So then the other thing is confusion. Dude, we've been talking about this for what, 20 or 30 minutes. We've barely scratched it, and so there's a lot to it, right? I mean, one of the names they call for all this smart home technology, one of the things related to it's called the Internet of Things, IoT. It's literally a thing. All it means is a device that's hooked up to the Internet of Things. There's a lot to it, right?
There is.
It's very broad and it's very deep. So confusion's a thing. Complexity. The idea for most people of trying to set up a smart anything with the technology in their house is daunting.
Yeah. I mean, quite frankly, for me, it's daunting.
Yeah.
I mean, I choose not to do a lot of this because, A, I'm a little bit like weirded out by it, like the Alexa and things listening to you. But then secondly, it's ultra confusing, I think, because, I wouldn't say I'm incompetent when it comes to technology even a little bit, but ultimately there's a lot of moving parts to this. There's a lot of new technology, and quite frankly, it's always changing every single day as well. And so how do you stay on top of this when you're actually out there working and trying to stay on top of everything else in life too? Right. So it's, there's just a lot of moving parts to this, but I do genuinely feel that, as the world moves forward, there's a ton of opportunity with this. It's going to help save energy, which is super important to, I know both you and and finding ways to, make things more efficient. But man, I think at some point there's also got to be a line drawn in the sand, because we don't need to get to where we just saw that Wally clip.
Right.
At, so.
Well, and there's, I totally agree. And a lot of this, there's concern with the technology for a lot of the reasons you just said. Not only the sedentary lifestyle that some of it can bring on, but also the invasiveness of some of the technology. My camera on my laptop could be watching me right now.
It probably is.
Hi. And it can get into some kind of conspiratorial kind of realms, right? With Big Brother and all that kind of stuff, which really everybody always cites, and I just, little pet peeve of mine, everybody always cites 1984, George Orwell, as the sort of look at what's happened now, not to be confused with Van Halen's album 1984.
I like Van Halen's album a little bit better.
And although there's great information in 1984, if you really want to look at, like, go off the deep end, if you will, with this kind of stuff and the tech and all that, and where we're at today, read Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. It's a little more close to, anyway.
Where we're at.
So we can get there with all that tech and stuff, right? But at the end of the day, it's up to the individual consumer to pick and choose which items may make sense for them, which items they think would save them money or save them a little bit of effort. I agree. I don't think you should do all of them. That would be a little wacky. But also, us as realtors. I said it right, huh?
I know you did. You got that right. You went to class. I could tell.
I got me book learnings.
Sure did.
But us as realtors, as this becomes more and more prominent in the marketplace, it is absolutely up to us to learn more and more about it, even if we don't want to use it in our own homes.
I agree with that.
To help clients understand that are buying homes that have this technology in them, what they're actually getting themselves into.
Agreed. Totally agree with that. No, and I was being sarcastic before, but this is something I do need to learn more about. It's something I'm not taking the initiative as much as I need to learn about it, because even though I certainly have issues with it, it's not my place. If somebody wants to buy a Roomba lawnmower, have at it, I guess. Get your exercise elsewhere, but ultimately, that's my opinion. But I certainly support technology moving forward. I love innovation. I love people that think outside the box. I just think there's a time and a place, and as long as people are smart with this stuff, I think it's it's going to move the world forward in a very much better way. I just I just cannot get around. You've got to get out there and move around a little bit, people. That's all. Right. That's all I'm saying is, like, get out there and move around a little bit so you don't end up like that character on the screen right now.
Either one of them.
I do have that Wally Lego, though. It's probably my favorite Lego set that I have.
So, that's awesome.
I digress.
Anyway, so that's going to wrap it up for today on Smart Tech. If you have questions, comments, you want to learn more about it or find out where we got some of our information, drop us a message. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review.
Reach out to us. We would definitely love to hear from you. And while you're doing that, also be sure to reach out to Stacy Mayo at the Scott Miller team at Ruoff Mortgage, because interest rates are still insanely low. I got the rate sheet from Scott the other day, 2.75% on a fixed. I mean, give me a damn break. It's insane what's going on right now. So if you bought a house in the last 5 years and you're paying more than 3.5%, reach out to Scott and Stacy, because oh my gosh, you can save some money right now. It's silly.
Dude, we bought at 4 1/8 and we thought we stole the mortgage.
Right. And now you refi that and you're saving $75 a month probably,
easy.
or more. I mean, it's just nuts what's going on with mortgage rates right now. So again, stay on top of it. Scott and Stacy have definitely got you covered. And Greg, anything else we need to knock out yet today?
No, I just drop a little note here that next week we're going
live.
We're going live.
So you're definitely going to want to tune into that. So next Friday at 5 o'clock, put it on your calendars. Blue Collar Real Estate coming at you live. And we're going to do our best to make that every Friday moving forward at 5 o'clock, although it is the heart of real estate busy season, and we'll keep you all posted. But every Friday, watch for the new episode coming out. We sure do appreciate everybody's time today. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.